Alright, imagine this. You're on a road trip in a foreign country. You rent a car, hit the road, and suddenly realize something feels off. The steering wheel is on the wrong side, cars are coming at you from the opposite direction, and your instincts keep telling you to swerve out of the way. Then it hits you, you're in a country that drives on the left. But why? Why do some countries drive on the left while others drive on the right? Was there some massive meeting where world leaders decided, okay, half of you go left, half go right, good luck? Or is there a deeper historical reason behind it? Today, we're diving into the history of left-side driving versus right-side driving, the strange origins of the rules, and how the world ended up split in two when it comes to driving directions. The origins. Why did people start driving on the left? Let's take it way back, before cars, before roads, before traffic lights. Imagine medieval times, when people mostly traveled on horseback or in horse-drawn carts. In most parts of the world, people were right-handed, and in combat, that mattered. Knights and soldiers preferred to ride on the left side of the road so they could draw their swords with their right hand in case of an attack. If you were riding along and ran into a potential enemy, you wanted your dominant hand free and ready to defend yourself. This wasn't just a medieval thing, it carried over into horse-drawn carriages as well. Drivers often sat on the right so they could hold their whip with their dominant hand, while keeping the left side open for passing. And this system wasn't random. Many of the world's early roads were based on these habits. In fact, some of the earliest official laws on road usage, like those from ancient Rome, suggest that Romans also stuck to the left side of the road when marching or riding. So, at one point in history, driving on the left was actually the standard worldwide. But that changed, thanks to one major shift in transportation: how right-side driving took over. So if most of the world originally rode or drove on the left, why do so many countries now drive on the right? Well, the short answer is, France and the United States changed everything. 1. The French Revolution and Napoleon's influence. During the late 1700s, France decided to shake things up, literally. Before the French Revolution, wealthy aristocrats rode on the left while peasants walked on the right. But after the revolution, the new government wanted to get rid of aristocratic traditions, including left-side travel. Napoleon Bonaparte, who was left-handed, preferred riding and marching on the right, so he made it standard across the French Empire. As Napoleon's army took over much of Europe, his rule of driving on the right spread across the continent. 2. The United States joins the right-side club. Meanwhile, across the ocean, the United States was making its own driving rules. Early American roads were influenced by British traditions, meaning people initially stuck to the left. But as more people moved westward, large wagons pulled by multiple horses became the main way to travel. Wagon drivers sat on the left side so they could hold their whip in their right hand, making it easier to control the horses. To avoid colliding with oncoming wagons, people naturally started keeping to the right. By the late 1700s, right-side driving became law in Pennsylvania, and the rest of the U.S. soon followed. And because the U.S. was growing into a major global power, many other countries, especially in North and South America, adopted the same system. Fast forward to today, and the world is split almost 50-50 between left-side and right-side driving. About 75% of the world's population drives on the right. The remaining 25% drives on the left, mostly in countries that were once part of the British Empire. Some of the biggest countries that still drive on the left include United Kingdom, Japan, India, Australia, South Africa, New Zealand. Many of these countries kept left-side driving due to British influence, but not all of them. Japan, for example, never had a strong British presence but still stuck with left-side driving. Countries that drive on the right. Most of Europe, the Americas, China, and Russia drive on the right, all thanks to Napoleon's and the US's influence. Some countries even switched from left to right in modern times, like Sweden, which made the change in 1967 in an event called Dagen H-Day. Why don't we just make it universal? At this point, you might be wondering, why doesn't the whole world just pick one side? Wouldn't it be easier if everyone drove on either the left or the right? Well, the problem is, it's complicated. Changing sides would mean rebuilding roads, redesigning vehicles, and re-educating drivers. Countries that export and import cars have adapted to the system they already have. Switching would be costly. Some countries did switch, but the process was chaotic and expensive. So, while it might seem logical to unify the world's driving rules, the cost and effort needed to make it happen mean that left side and right side driving are probably here to stay. The unique challenges of left versus right driving. Alright, so we've covered the history of why some countries drive on the left and others on the right. But before we wrap up, let's talk about something many people don't think about: the practical challenges that come with having two different driving systems in the world. The challenge of crossing borders. Imagine you're driving through Europe. You start in France, where cars drive on the right, but then you decide to head to the UK, where they drive on the left. Now what? If you're taking the Eurotunnel between France and the UK, you have to adjust as soon as you exit. Some countries with land borders between left and right driving nations, like Thailand and Laos, have special crossover lanes where cars slowly switch sides before entering the next country. In some cases, like Macau and mainland China, where one side drives on the left and the other on the right, you might even see double-ended buses designed to work in both systems. Border crossings aren't just tricky for drivers. Even train systems in some countries have to deal with left-right switches. In China, for example, some Hong Kong trains have to shift tracks when they cross into mainland China, where trains run on the opposite side. Rental car nightmares. For travelers, renting a car in a country that drives on the wrong side can be an absolute headache. If you're used to driving on the right, suddenly having to use your left hand for shifting gears in manual cars can feel completely unnatural. Many first-time left-side drivers in places like the UK or Australia accidentally drift too far left, hitting curbs or misjudging turns. Roundabouts are also a major challenge. If you're not used to them, your instinct might tell you to go the wrong way. It's why many rental car companies in countries like Japan and the UK will put a big sticker on the dashboard reminding foreign drivers, keep left. Importing and exporting cars. Ever noticed how some countries have cars with steering wheels on both the left and right sides? That's because the global car market is designed to cater to both left-driving and right-driving nations. Japan drives on the left, but many of their cars are exported to right-driving countries, so manufacturers have to make two versions of the same car. In some countries, people import cars from other places, leading to mismatched steering wheel placements. For example, in some right-driving countries in Africa, you'll still see cars with steering wheels on the right because they were imported from Japan. Some governments ban or limit left-hand drive LHD or right-hand drive RHD vehicles to maintain safety and uniformity. In short, the car industry has had to adapt to this split driving world, and it's part of the reason why unifying the system would be so difficult today. Switching sides. Countries that have changed driving rules. Believe it or not, some countries have actually switched driving sides in modern history. Sweden made the change from left to right on September 3, 1967, a day known as Dagen H or H-Day. On that morning, all drivers had to stop at 4:50 a.m. and wait until 5 a.m., when they were instructed to switch to the right side of the road. Samoa switched from right-side driving to left-side driving in 2009, so they could import cheaper cars from Australia and New Zealand. Other places like Ghana, Nigeria, and Myanmar have also changed driving sides at some point in their history. The process is never easy. Road signs have to be changed, cars have to be adjusted, and people have to completely retrain their instincts. So while some countries have done it, most just stick with the system they already have. Final thoughts. So, where does that leave us? The reason some countries drive on the left and others on the right isn't just random. It's deeply rooted in history, culture, and even warfare. The left side tradition started with knights and horse riders who needed their right hand free for combat. Napoleon and the U.S. changed things, making right-side driving the new norm for much of the world. British influence kept left-side driving alive in many former colonies. And today, while most of the world drives on the right, about 1/4 of countries still stick to the left. At the end of the day, whether you drive on the left or the right, what really matters is staying safe on the road. But next time you find yourself in a country where everything feels backward, at least now you'll know. It's not just a weird rule, it's history in action. And hey, if you enjoyed this, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on more mind-blowing topics like this one. Stay curious, and I'll see you in the next one.